I'm a puzzle guy. Any other puzzle people out there? Like, you like doing puzzles? I like doing puzzles. There's something about all these individual pieces coming together to form a picture. And all these individual pieces form a picture, and in this big picture, the creator of this picture knows what it's supposed to look like, right? And we, if we get the kind, which hopefully this is the kind that all of the puzzles are, the kind where the picture's already on the box, so we have a box to look at. We know what it's supposed to look like, but I get great joy out of putting each one of those individual pieces together, and I like seeing the picture come together. There's something about that just gives me pleasure. Kids, you're going to be with us this morning, and we are excited about that. But I'm going to need your help if I can. Kids, if you're here with us in 5th grade and under, at the back there are 2 stations. Okay, one back. Weston's back there already. You're good, Weston. There's some paper, some card stock. I invite you, if you'd like to participate with us, to go back there right now, kids. Just go back there, grab you one piece of card stock, and grab a few crayons. Okay, and while you're doing that, go ahead. Just go ahead and do it. Don't be shy about it. You're gonna help us illustrate something this morning. So grab one piece and just grab a few crayons. I'm not gonna ask you to do anything elaborate. Okay, nothing elaborate. So you don't need every color of crayon. Just 1 or 2 will be just fine. See how creative you really are. Elijah's trying to hide his whole pack of crayons. Okay? But so I'll explain here in just a moment, kids. But as each piece of the puzzle comes together, we get a clear picture of what the whole puzzle looks like. So kids, what I would like for you to do, if you could humor me here, I would like you to draw a picture of something that you fear. Okay, now listen carefully. I want you to draw a picture of something that you fear. Now, adults, if you're around them and the kids aren't listening right now, you may have to help them out and say, he said, draw something that you fear. So it could be anything. It could be something really serious like mice. Right, Janice? Mice? Would you draw mice, a mouse that you fear? Yes. It might be a mouse. It might be a spider. It might be having to clean your room. Something that you fear. But here are the very specific instructions. Now listen, hopefully you haven't started too much. I want you to draw half of the picture. Draw half of the picture for me. Don't draw the whole thing. Don't let us see the whole picture yet. Just draw half of it. So if it's a spider, just draw half of the spider. If it's cleaning your room, just draw half of your room. If it's spilling something in the middle of service, just draw half of the spill. There was a look of terror over here. That's great. We're in the middle of our Revealed series. And God is an invisible God. And He's an invisible, unseen God that desires to be more visible to us. And during this season that is called Epiphany, we see how God was and continues to be revealed through the best revelation picture we have, which is His Son, Jesus Christ. And it's in this life of Jesus that we see the clearest picture of who God is. And we see the clearest picture of this kingdom that God intends to reveal here on earth and to establish in our hearts and in our world. Today we see Jesus earn and confirm his authority over the unseen. You know, the unseen can be kind of scary, right? What we can't see makes us nervous oftentimes, but often we can understand a little bit more about the unseen by getting clues from what we can see. When my kids were little, I enjoyed coming home to a messy driveway and front yard. I enjoyed pulling down the street and seeing their toys all over the place. We had the big wheels that they would ride. We had the battery-powered monster truck thing that they would drive. And I would come home and there would be stuff everywhere. And at the beginning, when this would happen, I would go, "Grr, there's stuff everywhere." But as we went along, I began to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And there was a part of me, a big part of me, that began to find joy in that. Because I would take those pieces of the puzzle, those toys that were all over the yard, all over the driveway, and I would go, something must have happened here today. My kids must have been here today. They must have enjoyed themselves today. And those pieces of the puzzle formed this picture for me. Even though I didn't see the play and the fun and the activity happen, it brought me joy because I could put two and two together and I could go, joy happened in this yard, in this driveway, in this street. It's a dead-end street, by the way. Don't worry. Joy happened here, and it filled my heart. I remember one time visiting the town of Greensburg shortly after the massive EF5 tornado. Some of you went with me on that trip. When I say shortly after, it was actually several months after that. And as we pulled into town, it became very evident, even had I not heard that something happened here in Greensburg, it became very evident that something had taken place there. See, we pulled into town and there were trees with no branches, only trunks. There were foundations of houses with nothing on them, only foundations. In some places there were new houses being constructed where old ones had once been. And as we bumped into the very few people who were native of Greensburg, you could see the hopelessness in their eyes. And I began to put two and two together, and I realized that even that had I not heard that something happened here, I could have known that something happened here. Something that wasn't so good. Something that wasn't so uplifting. Something had come into that town and wreaked havoc. Something had destroyed that town and changed it forever. And there was a part of me that was really sad about that. One time when I was a teenager, I lifted up the hood of my truck. And intertwined within the engine parts was the skin of a snake. And this snake skin was about this long. And I began to put two and two together. And as I put the story together, the thought occurred to me, there must have been a snake amongst the engine of my truck. And my truck was a 1980 Chevrolet pickup. And if you're not real familiar with a 1980 Chevrolet pickup, the engine is humongous. The engine compartment is huge. It's one of those where you can actually get in and play, you know. Not that I did, but you could sit in there. Like there are wheel wells inside the engine compartment. There's also what I would say would be free access for said snake to make its way into the cab. And I began to put two and two together. And not only did I realize there must have been a snake in there, that at some point it's highly probable that said snake may have made its way into the cab. That was kind of scary. Kids, can you imagine that? Can you imagine driving down the road? I don't want to scare you. But I probably already have. I put two and two together. I realized there had been a snake. And now I was scared. Kids, I want you to take the picture that you've drawn. The half picture. I want you to show it to someone around you. You don't have to get up. Just show it to them. Now take a moment. Take a moment, because this is your interpretation, right? I want you to just share with that person around you. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Tell them what it is that you have drawn and why that is something that you fear. Go. Okay? So you have drawn a half picture, right? But of that half picture, if you did a pretty good job, and even if you didn't, you still know what the other half is supposed to be. You've drawn a half picture, and you can fill in the blanks, right? There's probably enough of that picture that one would be able to look at that and go, I know what that is. That's a spider. Or that's something else. So why don't you, I'd like to hear what maybe you have drawn. Anderson, what did you draw? You did draw a spider. Can I see your half spider? Okay, you just drew part of it. Okay. Yeah, Naomi, what did you draw? A clown, yes. Okay, yes, they're a little fear. I like that. So she drew a half clown there. Yeah, what did you draw? What did you draw? You also drew a clown, Bridget. Okay, what did you draw? Lightning? Okay, so like a storm type of thing? Good. Yeah, buddy. What did you draw? A half spider? Okay, all right. Very good. What did you draw, Jacob? A rattlesnake. Did you draw half of a rattlesnake? Yeah. Okay, well, okay, fine. Yeah, that's what you asked us to draw, right? What did you draw, Liz? Sick in bed? Okay, all right, yeah. Half of a horror movie, so a movie that may have scared you. Yeah, what did you draw? A tornado, okay. So all of these things are things that you fear. And we could take your half picture and we could fill in the blank and probably figure out what they are. This past week I heard a story, and many of you would have heard this story. I heard the story about the state of New York passing a law. Okay? And what the state of New York did is they passed a law that would essentially negate any future laws. Okay, essentially negate any future laws aimed at protecting an unborn baby right up until birth. Now, I'm not going to claim to know a lot about this law. Okay? I know it made me a little bit angry. Okay? It made me a little bit angry. I'm going to be really careful here. Okay? I'm going to be really careful here because I will fully admit I don't know everything. I only have a small picture, a small part of the big picture, right? But this made me angry. And then I began to put two and two together after I saw the way that some Christians were reacting. And I began to become a little perplexed, to be honest with you. I got a little perplexed over the reaction. Now, I believe that a lot of the reaction was probably out of anger, which I too was feeling. And if you're like me, sometimes when I get angry, I don't respond. Like later on I say, okay, that probably wasn't the best way to respond. Anybody else do that? You get angry and yeah, kids, right? Yeah, I know. And later on you go, oh wait, I maybe shouldn't have just reacted. But I got a little perplexed because I began to put two and two together. And no judgment toward these responses, right? But what I began to sense was fear. Was fear. And I put two and two together, and again, I don't know for sure. But some of the responses were to sign an online petition. Some of the responses were to maybe get on social media and make sure that everyone knows where I stand on this. Maybe it was even to change a profile picture. And none of that's bad. But I began to get a little perplexed, and I began to understand and get some insight into the fact that I'm not sure that we as Christians always know how to respond in an effective way. Because fear makes us respond in ways that maybe we don't think about, or maybe we respond in ways that we just don't know how else to respond. I don't know. But I became perplexed because the whole situation is perplexing. In Luke chapter 4, something really perplexing happens. If you'll open up your Bibles with me, and I'm going to ask you to stand, if you don't mind. In Luke chapter 4, starting in verse 31, the following happens. This is about Jesus. Then he went down to Capernaum, a town in Galilee, and on the Sabbath he taught the people. They were amazed at his teaching because his words had authority. In the synagogue there was a man possessed by a demon, an impure spirit. He cried out at the top of his voice, "Go away! What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," Jesus said sternly. "Come out of him." Then the demon threw the man down before them all and came out without injuring him. All the people were amazed and said to each other, "What words these are! With authority and power, he gives orders to impure spirits, and they come out." And the news about him spread throughout the surrounding area. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. I wonder sometimes if our anger is because we don't know how to respond. But I also wonder if our anger and our perplexing minds, what perplexes us. As I put two and two together, I began to wonder how much trust and faith we actually have in this idea, this truth, that God really is in control. Now, that's not a knock on anyone here. I'll be honest with you. I don't get on social media very often. I didn't see anybody's responses here. So please understand that this isn't coming from, I don't want to preach in response to something I see on social media. That just doesn't make sense. But I wonder, when I put two and two together, if these responses that I see, this general outcry, which isn't wrong, is because we lack a faith and trust that God really is in control. Should it anger us? Yes. What happened this week? It should anger us. Should it confuse us? Absolutely. Should it make us sad? Yes. It should. But should we keep in perspective that God is in control and that God knows what he's doing? Yes. Does it mean we just sit back and go, well, God knows what he's doing. He's got it in control? No. Are there things that we can do? Yes. Are there things that we should do? Yes. My question is, are we doing the right things? Are we doing the most effective things? See, in this story, Jesus' words brought amazement. If you look here, he went to Capernaum, a town in Galilee, and on the Sabbath he taught the people. And they were amazed at his teaching because his words had authority. His words brought amazement. There was something about what he said that made people amazed. His presence brought amazement. His presence brought fear. Now, let's understand fear for just a moment, okay? There's some translations that in here it says, in the synagogue there was a man possessed by a demon, an impure spirit. He cried out at the top of his voice, "Go away! What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." So here we have this demon-possessed man, and we hear the demons, the impure spirits, cry out, "Go away. Jesus, go away. Get away from us. What do you want with us? Jesus of Nazareth, have you come to destroy us?" And listen to what the demons say. "I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Why do the demons get it right? And so often we don't. Why can the demons understand enough to say, I know who you are. I know what you're capable of, Jesus. I know who you are. You're the Holy One of God. And I know you have control over this situation. Will you please just go away, God? Will you please, Jesus, just leave us alone? Let us be, because we know what you can do. Because you're the Holy One of God. And yet, how often do we get it wrong when the demons themselves get it right? And we forget what God is capable of. And we forget who Jesus is, the Holy One of God. When we fear, don't miss this, I want you to hear this. When we fear, we bring credibility to the object of our fears. When we fear, we bring credibility to the object of our fears. Kids, whatever you drew, if you didn't draw something, if you just thought of something, when you fear that thing, you bring credibility to that thing. You say, that thing's important. That thing is powerful. That thing can do something. That thing is capable of something. And because of that, I fear. I wonder if we could begin to fear God and His capabilities a little bit more. Because in some translations, this word amazed is actually fear. When it says the people were amazed after they saw this exorcism, that's really what it was. Jesus called the demons out, and it says the people were amazed. Some translations say the people began to fear. They didn't fear the demons. They saw what Jesus did and they went, whoa. Wait a second. Did you just see what that guy did? Did you just see what happened there? Whoa. We don't fear the demons anymore. We don't fear the darkness anymore. Now the object of our fear has been transferred from that to Jesus. Our amazement isn't over this guy in our synagogue making noises and weird body movements because he's possessed by the devil. We're distracted from that now. We see something else that's stronger than that, more powerful than that. And now we fear this. We're amazed by this. Because see, what happened was his actions, Jesus' actions brought power. They saw that the power was no longer resting in this man who was demon-possessed, but that power that had overtaken him was now submissive to the power of the Son, the Holy One of God. See, Jesus demonstrates the victory of God over the temporary master of the earthly kingdom. See, Jesus has the whole puzzle. He sees the picture, the whole picture. The puzzle's laid out in front of him. And as we encounter things like what happened in New York this week, kids, as you encounter things at school that perplex you, that scare you, as you encounter things at home that make you fear, you only see just one piece of the puzzle. Teens, as you encounter things that perplex you, that hurt you, that bring you fear, don't forget that what we should really fear or give our allegiance to or respect to is actually to God, to Jesus, who sees the whole picture. See, he has the whole puzzle. He sees how each piece fits together. And we do not see him lose heart. We don't see Jesus lose heart. So why would we lose heart? I want to read just a short excerpt from a book that I've read several times. And I read this part again this week. And I want you to hear the peace of Jesus in the midst of situations that he encounters. See, Jesus' heart was peaceful. The disciples fretted over the need to feed thousands, but not Jesus. He thanked God for the problem. The disciples shouted for fear in the storm, but not Jesus. He slept through the storm. Peter draws his sword to fight the soldiers, but not Jesus. He lifted his hand to heal. His heart was at peace. When his disciples abandoned him, he did not pout and go home. When Peter denied him, did Jesus lose his temper? When the soldiers spit in his face, did he breathe fire back into theirs? Far from it. He was at peace. He forgave them. His thoughts and his actions reflected his intimate relationship with the Father. His thoughts and his actions reflected the fact that he sees the whole picture. Did things make him angry? Yes. Did things make Jesus uneasy? Yes. Did Jesus get sad? Yes, he did. But he saw the whole picture. And he was able to be at peace even when something didn't quite go the way he had hoped. Jesus has power and authority over the entire kingdom of God, including the earth, the heavens, that which is unseen, even the darkness. And even when the darkness may seem like it's in control, and oftentimes it is, we don't have to lose heart, because we know from Scripture what's been promised. And that's that God is in control. Jesus' thoughts reflected his Father's thoughts. Jesus didn't lose heart, and neither should we, because we know who is in control. Do we sit back and do nothing? No. No. Do we do what we can? Absolutely. But we do it with the perspective that we know who is in control.